A United Airlines employee steals your AirPods. The company refuses to help. The police won't get involved. You're powerless, right? Wrong. For the last 6 months, I've been randomly blasting maximum volume sounds directly into the thief's ears multiple times a week. And I have zero plans to stop. This is the story of the pettiest, most satisfying revenge I've ever executed, and it's still happening right now. If you've ever had something stolen and felt completely helpless about it, this story is going to give you life. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and buckle up. Because today you're going to hear how modern technology turned me from a victim into a long-distance tormentor. And trust me, the thief has no idea what's coming next. 6 months ago, I was traveling through Houston. Just a layover, nothing special. One of those forgettable airport experiences where you're shuffling between gates, half awake, thinking about your final destination. I had been on a long flight, my AirPods in the entire time, listening to podcasts to make the hours pass faster. After deplaning, I went through security for my connecting flight. That's when I reached into my pocket and felt that sinking sensation every modern human knows too well. That hollow feeling of absence. My AirPods were gone. Now, these weren't just any headphones. These were AirPods Pro. Expensive, yes, but more than that, they were mine. I'd had them for over a year. They had my custom silicone case, a specific color combination I'd chosen. They were part of my daily routine. Morning commutes, gym sessions, work calls. They were an extension of how I functioned. My heart started racing, and I retraced my steps mentally. Where did I last have them? The plane. Had to be the plane. They must have slipped out of my pocket when I stood up to grab my bag from the overhead compartment. Okay. Not ideal, but fixable, right? Airlines have lost and found departments. This happens all the time. I pulled out my phone and immediately did what any rational person would do. I opened Find My iPhone and checked the location. There they were. Still on the plane. Still at the gate. Relief washed over me. They hadn't been thrown away or lost in some unreachable place. Someone would turn them in. This would be fine. I went to the United Customer Service desk and filed a lost item claim. I gave them everything. The flight number, my seat number, 14C. In the description of the silicone case, a two-tone blue and gray combination that was definitely distinctive. I even gave them the approximate time I realized they were missing. The representative smiled politely, typed everything into her computer, and told me what I wanted to hear. We'll contact you as soon as they're recovered. Keep an eye on your email. I felt good about it. Responsible airline, professional staff. This would be resolved within a day or two. Then I did something they probably weren't expecting. I put my AirPods into lost mode through the Find My app. This meant that if anyone connected them to a device, my phone number would display on their screen with a message, "Lost AirPods. Please call to return. Reward offered." That reward part was important to me. I'm not unreasonable. I understand people struggle financially. If someone found them and reached out, I was fully prepared to send them 50, maybe even $100 as a thank you. Enough to buy their own pair of basic earbuds at least. Just do the right thing and call me. I boarded my connecting flight feeling cautiously optimistic. The first sign that something was wrong came about 12 hours later. I checked the Find My app again, a habit I'd developed with all my Apple devices and AirTags. My AirPods had moved. They were no longer on the plane. Good sign, I thought. They'd been recovered and taken to United's lost and found office. But then I looked closer at the location. They weren't at the airport's main lost and found. They were showing up in what looked like an office building? No, wait. As I zoomed in on the map, the location became clearer. It was definitely within the airport complex, but in a restricted area. Somewhere employees would have access to. Maybe employee locker rooms? Okay. Weird, but maybe someone had temporarily secured them before processing them properly. I'd give it another day. I emailed United. Polite, professional. Hi, I filed a claim for lost AirPods. I can see via tracking that they're currently in the United employee area of Houston Airport. Can you please help me recover them? 24 hours passed. No response. I checked Find My again. My stomach dropped. The AirPods were no longer at the airport. They were at an apartment building, a residential address, miles away from George Bush Intercontinental Airport. Someone had taken them home. I stared at my phone screen, watching that little green dot pulse at an apartment complex in Houston, and I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't an oversight. Someone, a United Airlines employee, had found my AirPods, seen my lost mode message with my phone number and offer of a reward, and decided, nah, I'm keeping these. The betrayal stung more than the monetary loss. I had done everything right. I had followed procedures. I had offered a reward, and this person had chosen theft. But here's the thing about AirPods and AirTags. They don't just show you where something is. They show you patterns. And I'm the kind of person who pays attention to patterns. I started tracking obsessively. Not in a creepy way, but in a methodical, investigative way. I watched those AirPods move from the apartment to the airport. Back to the apartment. Airport. Apartment. A clear commute schedule emerged. They worked specific days. I could see when they had shifts. I could see what time they left for work and what time they came home. I had their home address. I had their work schedule. I had everything except their name. And United Airlines absolutely had enough information to identify exactly who this person was. I compiled everything into a detailed email. The employee's home address, their work schedule over a 2-week period, the dates they had worked that matched when my AirPods went missing. I practically did their internal investigation for them. I sent it to United. Here's the information about your employee who has my stolen property. I'm not asking for the police to be involved. I understand this is uncomfortable, but this person stole from a customer, and you have enough information here to identify them and handle this internally. I thought surely this would get results. A major airline wouldn't just ignore theft by their own employee, right? Wrong. The betrayal. The system fails. The response I got from United made my blood boil. Dear customer, we have reviewed your claim. Because the AirPods have left airport property, we are unable to assist with recovery. We recommend you file a police report with Houston Police Department. Your claim is now closed. I read that email 3 times, each time feeling more incredulous. They were telling me to file a police report with Houston PD for a theft that happened at their airport by their employee, with evidence I had personally compiled. And I lived in Arizona. They wanted me to somehow navigate filing a police report in a city I didn't live in, for a theft that would be considered too minor for any detective to seriously investigate, knowing full well that nothing would come of it. It was a bureaucratic middle finger. They closed my claim, just like that. Case dismissed, problem ignored. The employee kept my AirPods, United protected them, and I was supposed to just move on? That's when the anger crystallized into something else, something patient, something creative. I realized I might not be able to get my AirPods back, but I still had access to them. And access meant power. Here's something most people don't know about AirPods and the Find My network. Even when someone else is using your stolen AirPods, you still have control over certain features. One of those features is play sound. It's designed to help you locate your AirPods if they've fallen between couch cushions or gotten buried in a bag. When you activate it, the AirPods emit a loud, high-pitched beeping sound, even if they're in someone's ears, especially if they're in someone's ears. I stared at that button on my phone. Play sound. And I smiled. The first time I did it, it was almost experimental. I saw on the Find My map that the earbuds were out of the case, meaning someone was actively wearing them, probably listening to music on their way to work, maybe watching a video. I tapped play sound. On my end, nothing happened, just a confirmation that the command was sent. But I imagined the scene on the other end. The sudden, jarring, maximum volume beeping directly into their ear canal. The shock, the confusion, or the scrambling to rip the AirPods out. Within seconds, I watched on the map as the AirPods went back into the case. The little indicator changed. They'd been disconnected. I laughed out loud. Alone in my living room in Arizona, staring at my phone, I laughed. And then I thought, why stop? For the last 6 months, this has been my hobby, my personal project, my ongoing revenge. I've developed a system. I check the Find My app several times a week. When I see the AirPods are out of the case, meaning the thief is actively using them, I wait. Not immediately. That would be too predictable. I let them get comfortable, let them sink into whatever they're listening to. A song, a podcast, a phone call, and then I strike. Play sound. I imagine their reaction every single time. The sudden assault on their eardrums, the jolt of shock. Maybe they're on the bus. Maybe they're at the gym. Maybe they're trying to relax at home. It doesn't matter. That's the beauty of it. I've done this dozens of times now, at different times of day, different days of the week, no pattern, no predictability, just random strikes of auditory chaos. Sometimes I wonder if they've figured it out, if they've realized that the original owner still has access, if they understand that this isn't a malfunction, it's intentional. I like to think they're living with this low-level anxiety now, that every time they put the AirPods in, there's a tiny voice in the back of their mind wondering, is it going to happen again? Good. They should be anxious. They're a thief. But here's the thing. I'm not a vindictive person by nature. I don't go around looking for revenge. But this situation pushed every button I have. This wasn't just about the money. AirPods Pro cost a couple $100. I could afford to replace them, and I did. This was about principle. This was about someone in a position of trust, an airline employee, exploiting that position to steal from a customer. This was about a corporation that couldn't be bothered to protect its customers when presented with overwhelming evidence. This was about a system that failed at every level. If that employee had called me when they found the AirPods, I would have been thrilled. I would have sent them a reward, probably $75 or $100, enough to buy a decent pair of wireless earbuds of their own. I understand not everyone can afford premium technology. I genuinely don't judge that. But they made a choice. They saw my contact information. They saw my offer. And they chose theft. And United made a choice. They saw the evidence. They saw the address and schedule I provided. And they chose to protect their employee over their customer. So now they both get to live with the consequences. The thief gets random ear-blasting harassment indefinitely. United gets to deal with whatever complaints that employee might file about defective AirPods. And I get to feel like justice, even in its pettiest form, still exists. The most satisfying moment? It happened about 3 months in. I was having a terrible day at work. Everything was going wrong. Deadline pressures, difficult clients. I was stressed and frustrated and needed something, anything, to make me feel better. I opened Find My. The AirPods were out of the case. I didn't hesitate. I hit play sound, and then I watched. I watched as, within 10 seconds, they went back into the case, disconnected, silenced. And I smiled. A real, genuine smile. Because in that moment, I realized something powerful. They might have my AirPods, but I have their peace of mind. United might have closed my claim, but I opened a new case, one that doesn't have a closing date. One where I'm the investigator, the judge, and the executioner all at once. This thief thought they got away with it. They thought they scored free AirPods. Instead, they got the world's most annoying pair of earbuds, equipped with a remote-controlled torture device they can't disable. And I'm not stopping. Not in a month, not in a year. As long as those AirPods work, as long as Find My can locate them, I will continue this campaign. Call it petty. Call it childish. I call it justice. Is this the most mature response I could have chosen? Probably not. Is this the most satisfying thing I've done in recent memory? Absolutely. Sometimes the system fails you. Sometimes corporations don't care. Sometimes thieves think they've won. But sometimes, just sometimes, technology gives you the tools to write your own ending. And my ending involves a United Airlines employee living in perpetual anticipation of the next time their stolen AirPods betray them. So what do you think? Am I a petty genius or just plain petty? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever gotten creative revenge on someone who wronged you, I want to hear those stories. But if this tale of technological vindication made your day, smash that like button so hard the thief feels it in their ears. Subscribe for more revenge stories that prove karma sometimes needs a little human assistance. And hit that notification bell, because trust me, I've got more satisfying stories coming your way. Remember, don't steal people's stuff. You never know who's tracking you from 1,500 miles away with a very specific sense of justice and way too much free time. Thanks for watching. And until next time, keep your AirPods close and your tracking apps closer.